Welcome back. You're still watching The Breakfast Show, and now time for our first segment of this edition of the program. Plan has been working in Egypt for over 30 years now, serving more than 1,500,000 children in 6 different governorates. Plan Egypt focuses on child rights, implementing programs designed to enable communities to improve the lives of the most marginalized children by working with women, youth, and civil society organizations. Joining us in the studio this morning to learn more about Plan and their celebration of their 30th anniversary is Mrs. Virginia Says, the sponsorship and grants manager. Thank you very much for being with us this morning. And Mr. Hamdi Qanawi, the program support manager. A very good morning to you, sir.
Good morning.
Good morning to you, and congratulations on the occasion of celebrating your 30th anniversary. Why did you start, or why did you decide to start with children, to work with children as a start for your activities?
For us, it's a children rights organization. We believe in children's rights. Why children? It's obvious. Children are the future. And we take a generational approach to children. We start with children because they have a lot of potential to be the citizens of the future. So we promote children because they are the future, basically. That's a short answer. Plan
International has been working in Egypt for 30 years now. Can you tell us a little bit briefly about its activities?
Well, Plan is an international organization, so we work in more than 70 countries around the world, and we've been, actually this year is very important for us because it's not just our 30th in Egypt, but it's also the 75th anniversary worldwide of our organization. We're doing very different activities, as my colleague has said. It's all about children, and children, not just because they are the future, but also they are the present. They are here today, and we believe that if we invest in them and in their communities and their families, the future of Egypt will be better. We do many different activities, starting with working with women, mainly the mothers, the sisters, to make sure that they have skills, they are empowered, they have literacy, they can read, they can support the children in terms, for example, of their homework. But we also believe a lot in working with youth groups. We believe that if we support young people getting together and organize and starting doing things for their communities, they develop a lot of skills that will make them better people in the future. We also work in with community organizations. I mean, that's our main entry point. I mean, it's very important that Plan, we don't work alone. We are aware that we are an international organization. So for us, the most important thing is to identify who is in the communities, who are the organizations that can take the lead and promote these programs. We're also working with the most vulnerable children. We have programs to work with children that are living on the streets, children that are working, and also children with disabilities.
Okay. You've been working here in Egypt over the past 30 years. How did the situation develop ever since you started here 30 years ago and now? What's the difference? What are the developments?
Well, 30 years ago Egypt was different. Egypt at the time, 1981, the economy, society, politics, everything was different. So at the time, there was a need for us to focus on children's and communities' basic needs. And this around a need for water, need for electricity, need for schools. That was the time. That was what's needed. And then we got into the 90s. The 90s were the world focused on children. There was the International Convention on the Rights of the Child. So we moved with that. So we moved from a focus on basic needs to children's rights. Egypt was developing. Egypt, in terms of laws for children, the government adopted the International Convention for the Rights of the Child. There were the law of the child that was adopted by the government. There was the National Council for Childhood and Motherhood. There was a ministry, later on, Ministry for Family and Childhood. So these were the changes, and we changed with these. So our programs moved with the world, with the government of Egypt, and our programs were consistent with that.
And since that decade, the decade of the child with the convention that was approved on the international scale and on the level of Egypt, do you feel that children's rights have really been upheld here in Egypt, since we know that there are still a lot of vulnerable segments in our community, unfortunately?
Well, the government has been trying its best. I mean, the government, produced the right for the child, for children. Yes, the country was moving on that front, but also the government was restructuring. There was restructuring of the economy that as a result of that, many children were left out. Many children were left out, out of education. Many children left out of the social coverage, so they ended up in the streets. So, I mean, while there was a lot of improvements, there's also a lot to be done for children.
Ms. Virginia Saiz, if I ask you about some of your achievements in Egypt over the past 30 years, I mean, before and after, before your interference and after your activities, or
right. I mean, it's a very challenging question. I mean, for us, we have some numbers, we have some indicators of things that have been changed and that we have achieved, but actually for us it's the stories. I mean, if you talk to women about, how they change, how, for example, yesterday we were celebrating our anniversary, and there were some women that were telling their own stories, and that's for us the most powerful. Like a woman that is able now to leave her house, being able to take a bus, being able to even sign when they are reviewing papers, or is able to read the prescription of her child. He's ill and he doesn't know even what he has to buy for him. So it's all these stories that make Plan a reality and something that make us feel proud. Achievements, as Hamdi was saying, I mean, they've been evolving according to how Plan has been evolving. Like we have, in the past we supported lots of house reconstruction, access to water, building schools, giving school supplies for children, remedial classes. The achievements of the last 5 years, which are a very different type of approach, is, for example, more than 5,000 children with disabilities are able to access rehabilitation services. Or we have today more than 30,000 women meeting every week to save money and being able to be, to support themselves or to start their own businesses. We have thousands of young people organized and taking actions for their communities. We have also supported many community development associations that are, taking the lead in promoting development. So there are good numbers of what Plan is being achieving, but the most important thing is to be aware that what we've been doing is possible because we're working with Egyptians, with local organizations, with the ones that really know how we can reach the most vulnerable people in communities.
And this takes me actually to the second question. Who launches those initiatives? I mean, who decides on the most important needs of this community, of this group of people, and decides on, setting up plans and working action to hopefully tackle this issue and solve it? Who takes the decision?
It's I mean, participation is key for us. So we don't actually go and decide this is what we are planning for next year. We start with the people in the community and looking at the needs and what needs to be planned and designed. So you begin with the community. With the community, you look at what's happening either for children, for youth, for women, for economic development, and working with the community and with the community development.
Again, Mr. Hamdi, when you apply this participatory approach, who in the community do you approach to hopefully take their opinion in setting up your future plans?
Okay, at the community level, we work with the organization that represents the community development organization, which has access to women and children and youth in society, at the local community. We engage that just as an entry. We engage with the NGO, with the local NGO at the community level, and with the government at the local level. This could be a Ministry of Social Affairs, that could be the Ministry of Education, that could be the Ministry of Health, Ministry of Youth Councils, at the local level. And then a dialogue takes place, and from the dialogue you become aware of the issues and problems, and from that you think of a solution, and that could be in the form of a project.
Okay, building on your answer and Maisa's question, you're talking about collaborative efforts here. What kind of challenges or problems do you encounter while trying to coordinate all these different or various institutions, authorities, ministries, and local NGOs, for example?
Of course, I mean, sometimes every ministry or every group, sometimes they see their opinion is the one that they should be followed. So that it's coming to a consensus, coming to an agreed solution is the challenge sometimes. It takes time. So we talk and we talk and we talk until we reach a consensus, and that this is what we need to do for next year.
One of the main challenges on this respect is how you actually encourage communities to work on the issues that are not that easy to see. I mean, it's much more easy for the government or for the organizations to say, we need water, we need better houses, concrete things that you actually can see with your eyes. But when you're talking about the things that are not that easy to see, you know, like women's empowerment or violence against children, protection, those are the things that take a lot of time for our staff and also with the local NGOs to be in communities for a long time, to really try to generate that these issues come up and become a need for people.
You need time for the outcome to be ahead.
You need time to identify that these issues are on the surface and that are, you know, that they become a demand. So when a mother tells you, you know, I need to learn how to read and write because nobody's supporting my kid with homework, for example, or when you start working with mothers that had children with disabilities, and they are aware that they are not given the opportunities for these children to develop, that's the process that takes time, so that they become conscious of that.
Now, how long have you been here in Egypt, Ms. Virginia?
30 years.
30? Oh, you've been here for 30 years?
No. sorry, plan. I've been here 3 years now, 3
years. And have you worked in other
Yes. I've been with Plan for a few years. I was before in Latin America for a few years, for 4, and then I was also in London. I started in the UK.
Okay, on a comparative scale, how would you perceive the achievements made in Egypt compared with other Plan International organizations working in other countries also of need?
I mean, I think what is interesting when we compare is that the context of Egypt is so different and challenging that I feel very proud of any achievement here because, you know, I've been working in Latin America and it's a very easy context where there is not a lot of control, so you can actually do a lot very easily. Here, for us, it takes a lot of time to do anything, like, you know, to get government's approvals, to get people trust you and believe. Exactly. I mean, also the fact that we are an international NGO, sometimes it can be as an advantage, but sometimes it takes a lot of time to really build trust with people and say, you know, our priorities are your priorities. We're not bringing anything that is not part of your agenda, you know. So for me, any achievement here is a big achievement. And for example, working with women and girls here, for me, is one of the things that I feel very proud because I feel that is one of the areas that needs to be taken into account very seriously.
Okay, you're dealing with children, as we said earlier, different categories of children. Does this include disabled or children with special needs?
Yes, it does. It does. All the marginalized, I mean, we focus on the marginalized segments, especially marginalized children because of poverty, because of gender, because of disability, and the marginalized include children with children living in the street, working in children in the street. It includes children with disability. Yes, it does. We have different interventions to deal with the issues, with different issues.
Indeed. But you know that there are a lot of other NGOs also working with street children, with the people with disabilities and stuff. Do you ever get into cooperation with other organizations, governmental or non-governmental, maybe in, you know, mega projects, hopefully targeting larger groups of people?
Yeah, collaboration is a strategy of Plan. We don't work on our own. You know, we work with government, we work with other organizations at the national level as well as the community level. Also, we learn from international experience.
Of course.
So
Can you tell us about any success story touching on this collaborative attitude with others, other NGOs?
Well, for example, on the disability, if we take one example, we are working as part of a coalition of different organizations. The coalition also the protection of children's rights, which includes children with disability and also protection of children in schools. So collaboration is a key strategy and approach as well.
Okay. Culture and traditions sometimes create strains and problems for girls here in Egypt in particular. Do you have special programs dealing with girls here in Egypt?
Yeah, as I was mentioning, I mean, one of our main programs is Girls and Women's Empowerment Program. We're working on a global campaign because it's a priority for Plan Worldwide, which is called Because I'm a Girl. And the idea is to target girls, to offer opportunities, to work on the barriers that don't allow them to move forward in society and to create opportunities for them. So we have different programs to tackle the situation of girls, like, for example, working on literacy for girls and women, promoting community schools so that they can, you know, girls that are at home and they don't have access to go to formal education so that they can attend community schools. Also saving groups, promoting women, as I was mentioning before, getting together and saving money so that they can, you know, start their own projects. We also work a lot on harmful traditional practice. We try to ensure that traditions are harming girls we work on them. So, for example, reducing early marriage. A lot of raising awareness on communities of what is the impact. It's not that going to a community and tell people, oh, don't do this. It's more working with communities so that themselves they understand that these traditions are harming their daughters. So at the end of the day, what is the advantage that a 13-year-old girl gets married and have a baby that early? So we have a very comprehensive approach to offer different opportunities for girls so that they can improve their lives.
And how do you assess the success of such initiatives? Because indeed, when it comes, like Hind was saying, it is not a concrete thing that you can see. You've brought potable water to this village, you have supplied this with that, but it's a whole culture that is really ingrained in our very conservative societies. How can you assess the success of such a project? We know, of course, you've worked with the circumcision of girls as well, so how do you assess the success of the project?
Well, I mean, people themselves. I mean, by asking people themselves. When you see a child who managed with her parents and society to avoid this terrible practice, you know, she goes to school, she goes to university, and from examples, from cases, you know, we don't have statistics that say we managed to succeed with 50% or 60%. You know, I mean, again, we focus on success stories by examples. You know, girls who avoid, and then the girls talk about their success in life. And
it's a very holistic way of approaching the life of a woman. I mean, we try to understand from the beginning, since the moment they are born, where are the steps that they take in their life so that at the end they cannot move forward, or that they get stuck in the house without the skills and opportunities. So, for example, we started from the beginning working with young children, with babies, and promoting early childhood programs so that the mothers understand, you know, what is the best nutrition, what is the best stimulation. But then we started when they are a little bit older to make sure that they stay in the schools, that they don't go to work, and if they work, that they still can access a school. We promote children and youth groups so that they have recreational activities, opportunities to learn values of citizenship. And then when they become adults, we also promote different groups so that they can get skills, for example, to get a job, or just even if being better mothers. So it's a very holistic way. So it's the stories that you hear from people. I mean, it's a combination of factors. It's very difficult to say, oh, Plan did this, or thanks to Plan, this girl didn't marry early. It's very difficult, but we are aware that it's this combination of different opportunities that will challenge the destiny of many girls.
Indeed. Well, we definitely wish you all the luck in your endeavors. Ms.
Thank you.
Virginia Thais, the Sponsorship and Grants Manager, Mr. Hamzi Qanawi, Program Support Manager at Plan International. Thank you very much. And once again, a very happy 30th anniversary.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you for being with us. And the first presidential election since the 25th of January revolution are to be held in May. So far, it is not clear if Egypt will have its first female candidate running for the post. What do Egyptians think about that? That's what we're going to listen now from our colleague Rinor.